If tariffs, duties, and international tax compliance makes your brain melt, like mine, you're not alone. But Stefanie Lsakidis, Head of Sales and Partnerships at Avalara, is here to walk us through what smart, scalable compliance actually looks like. Her talk, Selling Overseas is Easier Than You Think, is both a reality check and a relief. Please welcome Stefanie to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stefanie. I'm Head of Sales and Partnerships for Avalara. We're the world's largest global tax compliance company. Just a big thank you to the Zappy community for hosting us today. It's a real pleasure to meet everyone. So many wonderful entrepreneurs and consultants I've met, part of the Zappy community. It's always so impressive. So today I'm going to tell you how easy it is to sell overseas. You don't need a foreign entity, you don't need, there's so many things that you don't need if you don't want to have it. You can actually just start selling. If all you have is a presence in New Zealand, then you're ready to go. So I'm going to give you an overview of the world, how easy it is to sell, with a special mention to the USA, because a lot of my clients who are from New Zealand sell into the USA specifically, and that's where they make most of their money. We'll talk about the rest of the world as well. Sales tax, GST, HST, PST, VAT, when to add all these kind of taxes to a shopping cart, when is it not needed. Sales tax compliance as well, how to stay compliant. Do you need to register? Do you not need to register? Can you just start selling? And also ongoing considerations. But in a nutshell, it is extremely easy to sell overseas. So if you're an e-commerce brand and you're on the fence and you're thinking, should I sell overseas? Should I get going? Now's the time. Call Zappy, set it up, export to the whole world. Don't let anything stop you. I'm going to show you exactly how easy it is. So the USA is one of the number one export opportunities for New Zealand e-commerce brands. So US e-commerce grew 14% in the last year, and e-commerce is now about 15% of the total retail in New Zealand. Total e-commerce sales across the world were 870 billion. So this is a big market. So if you're an e-com brand and you haven't started selling here yet, now's the time, because there's nothing stopping you. Almost $1 out of every 5 spent came from digital. COVID was obviously a big push, and we saw globally people shifting from shopping in person to shopping online. And that has made such a difference, and that shift has stayed, and that trend has stayed. People are still online shopping, and people would rather see the duty calculated at the checkout rather than at the delivery. And I'll go through what that means, but what that, in a nutshell, what that means is the shoppers want the complete, transparent picture. They don't want a surprise at the checkout. They don't want this uncertainty. If I buy, are there going to be duties and tariffs and tax added? I'm not sure. Just tell me at the checkout what it costs so I can have a positive experience. I know what I'm going to spend, and the goods will come to me quickly. So these are 5 steps for selling in the US, but it's actually the whole world. So research your tax and duty requirements. I can help you with that. It's very easy. Step 2 is register with the authorities. So depending on which country you want to sell into, you may need to register. So for example, if you want to sell into Australia, there's a threshold of 75,000 Australian dollars where you don't need to charge GST. So if you're under that, there's no need to register, you can just sell. UK, however, on the other hand, if you want to sell into the UK, you must register from day 1. And this is if you don't have any physical presence in the UK, you're not British, you don't know any British people, you've got nothing there, you operate completely out of New Zealand, and you want to sell even one single order in the UK, you need a UK VAT number. So every country have their own rules, and we can help you with that. Step 3 is to calculate the correct tax and duty amount. So most of the world have a very high threshold, and you can just start selling without having to calculate tax. So UK is unusual like that, to have a threshold of 0. Australia has a high threshold, USA has a high threshold, Canada has a high threshold, Europe, so much of the world, most of the world, you actually don't need to calculate sales tax. There's also exempt sales. So if you're a business and you're doing business to business transactions, a lot of those can be tax exempt. Also, for example, if you're selling a digital product, I heard a question just now about a software or a digital sale. For example, that is tax exempt in California because that's a B2B non-tangible personal property sale. So we can help you with all that, and then file and remit to the authority. So if you're selling all over the world and you've reached a threshold in each country, that's when you need to add tax to the order, collect and file returns in that country. But until then, you actually don't need to do anything at all. So an indirect tax is a sales tax. So in New Zealand, you have GST. So GST is added to everything across the board. It's a flat rate, and everything in New Zealand is either taxable or it's non-taxable. The USA is very different because each state has its own tax rate. 45 states will have a tax rate. 5 of them do not have any tax rate at all. That's why I highlight the USA. It's quite different to the rest of the world, but every country operates in the same way. They've got their GST, they've got their VAT, PST, HST, sales tax. So across the US and Canada, in a standard year, there's around 100,000 changes to sales tax every year. This year, there have been 600,000 changes to sales tax, and this is all from Trump. He's focused on sales tax, he's focused on tariff and duty. This is what he's looking at, this is what he wants to change. So in the USA, there's 13,000 different tax jurisdictions. There's 150 million mailing addresses, and would you believe, in the USA, each individual address has their own tax rate. And this is because in the USA, there's state tax, city tax, county tax, local tax, special tax. And a special tax can come at any time. So a really good example of a special tax, in Colorado, a short time ago, they introduced a special tax. It was 20 cents if your item comes in a plastic bag. So if you're shipping in a plastic bag, you need to add 20 cents to every order. And if you don't do that, that comes from your pocket because you're going to be expected to remit that. So every transaction in the USA crosses some boundary. It's very different from selling in, for example, Australia, selling in Europe, because it's flat rate in Australia, 10% GST. Whereas USA, it's very, very different. It looks almost like a kid spilt different colors of paint on a map and then smooshed it around. There's no rhyme or reason, there's no organization. And you get situations like this. This is a live example. This is Colorado. This is 2 neighbors. And look at this. Look at these different tax rates. So if you're an e-com brand and you're shipping into Colorado, you have to have the exact coordinates of the rooftop that you're shipping to in order to calculate the correct sales tax. And if you don't do this, if you don't add the tax or you don't calculate it correctly, it's you, the merchant, that's on the hook for this tax. When this business gets audited, you would never contact the customer and say something that you ordered 10 years ago, you have to pay the tax. It's all on the merchant. So the merchant is responsible for the tax not collected. There's also a product taxability challenge. So for example, if you look at the bottom right, candy bars in Indiana, Snickers is taxable. Kit Kat and Twix, not taxable. So this was something that really stood out to me when I joined the company. I thought, why is a Snickers taxable and Kit Kat and Twix not? Kit Kat and Twix contain a biscuit, and the biscuit has flour in it. So anything with flour is considered a food. So the food is tax exempt, but Snickers bar is just peanuts and caramel. So because that's a luxury good, that's tax exempt. So each individual item that you're selling can have its own tax rate. So that's why it's really important to make sure your goods are classified correctly. So another example, in Pennsylvania, if you have a flag, it's not taxable, but if you sell it with the accessories, the whole purchase becomes taxable. So there's so many nuances with selling into different countries that you need to take care of once you reach the threshold. So in Texas, camping stoves and tents were taxable. However, candles and tarps weren't. So different types of emergency supplies, the government deemed which ones were essential and which ones were luxury, and that's why they're so different. So in New York, a clothing item or a pair of footwear, less than $110, exempt from state sales tax but not local. So the slide I showed you before with all the different layers of sales tax in Colorado, that's one line item that would be removed for this purchase. Back to school sales tax holiday in Florida. This one is interesting. This is a government initiative. They want lingerie to be not taxable. So you can think about that, what they're trying to achieve on the school sales tax holiday there. So Nexus. So Nexus determines if you need to register your business in another country and collect and remit sales tax, or if you have no responsibility at all, no liability, and you can just start selling. So I've met a lot of startups here today, a lot of people that are just getting started selling. So if that's you and you don't have Nexus yet, there's nothing stopping you selling overseas. You don't need to worry about any of this sales tax. So I'll run through what Nexus is. So 3 of the most common types of Nexus: economic activity. So what that means, if you're a completely remote company operating entirely within New Zealand and you're shipping all over the world, or shipping to Australia, to China, Europe, USA, anywhere else, if you don't reach a certain threshold in which each country is different, then you actually have no obligation to pay tax. You don't need to register in that country. You don't need a foreign entity. You don't need anything at all. You can just ship. There's nothing stopping you. The next one is physical presence. So if you operate your e-com business out of New Zealand, but you've got a warehouse in Canada, for example, or Australia, or the USA, that can trigger Nexus. So what that means is putting a warehouse or a facility, an office, a remote employee, sending someone to do trade shows in another country, that can trigger a liability in that country. So what that means is you're no longer remote. If you've got a remote employee in, let's say, California or Australia or something like that, and that person is working for you for a while, you've got a physical presence there. So you would need to register in that country. The third way is marketplace sales. So if you do marketplace like Amazon, for example, then you need to register in that country where Amazon is holding your stock, because a piece of your product, a piece of your business is being held in another country. Even if it's not you that's selling it, that still triggers a liability. So if you've got something on this list, that would mean that you need to register. So USA is quite broken down. So each state have their own thresholds. So as a rule, if you're below any of these thresholds, and these thresholds reset every year, as long as you stay below, there's nothing stopping you from just selling to the USA. You can just put things in your warehouse. You can give them to Zappy and they can send to the USA, and you won't have any tax liability at all. As long as you don't have any physical presence there, you're completely in New Zealand, no need to register for sales tax, no need for US entity, you don't need to file US sales tax returns, nothing stopping you. You can just go. However, once you reach these thresholds, that's the time when you need to register in the USA, you need to file tax returns in the USA, and you need to add sales tax to every order, collect it and remit it. So for example, let's look at Florida, the bottom right, $100,000 per year threshold. So if you're selling into Florida and all you do is $90,000 every year, you don't need to do anything. You just put your order in the freight and send it there, and then you're done. Once you trigger a $100,000 Nexus threshold, from that point on, that's when you need to register. So you need to register just in Florida. The rest of the USA, you don't need to register because you haven't reached it yet. It's just Florida. So in Florida, you need to register your business as a New Zealand business, a Chinese business, Australian business, any business, doesn't matter, trading in Florida. No need to make a foreign entity, keep your foreign company, all good. Then we file tax returns for you just in Florida because that's all you need. You haven't triggered the rest of America. And the last step is you have to add sales tax to every order that goes just to Florida. So the rest of the USA, if they're placing orders and you haven't reached Nexus, no tax, no problem, no tax returns, nothing. Just in Florida, in this example, would you need to collect and file. It's so much easier than you think. And if you're a startup, you're a long way off these thresholds, and they reset every single year. So think about that. If you want to sell overseas, don't let this fear of, I don't have a US entity, which you don't need. I don't know how to do tax returns in the USA, don't need to. As long as you're below these thresholds, you can start today. You can just start sending. Get in touch with Zappy, sell to Australia, sell to USA, Europe, Asia, whatever you want, as long as you're below the relevant threshold in the place that you're selling to and you don't have any physical presence. So these are the things that can trigger a physical presence in a country. So if you've got an office in another country, say you've got an office in Canada, even a small office for one person, that triggers Nexus and you have to register. If you don't have that, if you operate just in New Zealand, then you're fine. A warehouse, 3PL, employees, remote employees, servers for digital products, storing inventory in a warehouse, even if it's 3PL, it doesn't belong to you, doesn't matter. If you've got stock held by anybody, then that triggers Nexus. Employee travel and attending trade shows also trigger Nexus. So if you're remote, it really is that easy. So the reason that this started is because in 2018, there was a company called Wayfair, and they were making so much money in certain American states where they were remote. And then the government changed to bring in a new law that made it possible to register and collect sales tax if you don't have any presence there. So that's the reason that now governments are starting to insist that these foreign companies collect tax, add sales tax and file tax returns even though they've got no presence there. But the thresholds are high. So this is a customs overview. So obviously cross-border tax is a very hot topic at the moment. People love talking about it. It's on the news. This seems to be Donald Trump, one of his buzzwords at the moment. Every day it seems to change. And there's so many pain points when you're shipping overseas to any country. Shipments can get delayed in customs. Supply chain costs, people are really, really worried about that they will grow or that there'll be hidden surprises. Communication difficulties, a poor user experience, customers rejecting the shipment. So you spend all this money to get the goods to Australia or to whatever country, and then once it gets there, the buyer realizes they don't want it anymore, and you have to cover that cost, and you just have to eat that. So de minimis rules. So a lot of countries, as mentioned, have a certain threshold. And as long as you're below that threshold, then there's no duty or import tax. So I actually made this slide before Trump's recent changes. It says 800 USD. It probably has changed while I've been talking. But the rest of the countries, hold. So for example, let's use the UK as a great example. So as long as what you're selling into the UK is worth less than 135 British pounds, then it's fine. You actually don't need to do anything at all. You don't need to add, there's no tax, no duty, nothing. Same as selling into Australia. If you're going to sell a $5 item, shipping from New Zealand into Australia, no tax, nothing. If you're a startup and you're just getting started, you're below the threshold, very, very easy. It's so much easier than you think. Once you get big and you grow so much that you cross every threshold, that's the time to start worrying about taxes. But if you're just getting started, you should get moving. There's no better time like now. Thresholds change all the time, but they're very, very easy to track. We can do it for you. We do it for free. And Zappy are great. They can help you, especially shipping into Australia. It's a huge market for the Kiwis. There should be really no excuse for everyone in this room. It's so incredibly easy to ship all over the world. It's so much simpler than you think. So the thresholds can apply to customs duties, import taxes, or both. They're usually different for duties versus import taxes, and every country have their own threshold. So there's no countries in the world that have the same threshold. So you have to treat each country uniquely and look at each threshold, and each threshold will be in their own currency as well for each country. So an HS code. So this is a harmonized system code. So when you're shipping your goods to any country, there's a code that's attached to that good. And it's really, really important to have the correct code. If you don't have the correct code, the goods will be taxed incorrectly, and I'll go through that next. So let's suppose you want to sell this orange and you want to ship this orange around the world. So international code at the beginning. So that would be, is it a fresh fruit? Is it dried fruit? Is it organic fruit? What country is it from? Is it a citrus? Is it a melon citrus? All these things that will describe what it is. And at the end, that is the national component. So that's country specific. So if you're going to send this orange to 10 different countries, you need 10 different codes. I'm going to go over next what happens if you don't even bother with that. If you just think, oh, I'm too tired, I'm going to use the same code for everything. So if you're going to send this shoe to different countries, every country have their own code. And you need to use a different code for each country. You cannot use the same code. Let's suppose you don't do that. Let's suppose you just want to use the same code everywhere and you think, I'm too tired, or I'm going to trust my carrier to do it for me, or we did the codes 10 years ago, I don't need to replace them, anything like that. If you do that, let's suppose you're shipping this shoe into Canada. So look at this. This shoe can be classified 3 different ways. If you want to call this a ballet shoe, 0% tax. If you call it a female shoe, 11% tax. And if you call it a slipper, 18% tax. So here's the thing. If you don't put anything on the label or you put the wrong thing, what they're going to do, the law in every single country, automatically they default to the highest. So if you haven't done this on your goods, if you're not paying attention to what code you're using, you're paying 18% and these are being called slippers, and we all know these are not slippers. So that's for every single thing. So you need a new code for every item, every country. Super important, because if you don't do this, you are throwing thousands of dollars down the drain. Not only that, you're making your customers, probably you're adding your customers to pay for this duty. Why would your customers keep shopping from you if you're going to be 18% more expensive than your competitor who's selling these for no tax or a cheaper tax rate? So this is the kind of thing that e-com brands overlook. They think they don't understand it, they don't know what it is, it's not important, someone else will do it. Take care to do your HS codes. We sell HS codes for less than $1 each. Dirt cheap, $1, and you will know exactly what the tax rate can be, and you can classify it how you think it should be classified rather than allowing the government to just tell you that it's going to be at the highest rate in every country. So this is delivery duty paid or duty at place. So if you look at the 2 checkouts, look at the one on the left. So the item total, you've got a dress and a scarf in the checkout. So for some reason, the shipping is only $20 on this, which is a bargain, but it's £153 plus shipping. If you look at the checkout on the left, see how there's customs duty and local tax as 2 lines? In this checkout, the customer up front, they know exactly what they're paying. So they can say, okay, I'm spending $153 on the dress, on the scarf, and the customs duty and local tax to go into England is this much. I'm going to pay it right now, and then the items will go straight through customs. They won't get held up. The customer won't get contacted to say you owe money to the border because we need to collect the local tax and the customs duty. The order will go straight through. On the right is DAP, that's duty at place. So what that means, if you're sending this order into England, you haven't collected any tax. See, there's no tax at the checkout. There's nothing there. It just says the item total and the shipping. And on your website, you can put a little blurb that says tax is the responsibility of the customer. So when that order gets to the border, they're going to get contacted by the UK government to say, you owe tax and duties for this. What's going to happen to that customer? They're going to get so upset. They're going to say, I paid £170 for this. Why are you asking for more money? I didn't know about this. You didn't tell me how much it was. Now you're telling me I owe £38. I didn't know about that. I don't want to pay it. Send it back. Abandoned cart, and merchant has to pay to send that back. So you've had to pay to ship the order overseas, hold in that foreign warehouse, and sent home. So that all that has done is cost you money. You've lost from that order. You've lost. It's so much more worthwhile to give your customer the upfront transparent information of having the tax upfront. So so please get in touch with me if you've got questions about selling overseas, or you want us to help you calculate the duties upfront on your invoice. We can sync with any system that you're using. Shopify, BigCommerce, Xero, Mile, whatever you have. If you want the tax and duty on the invoice for any country in the world, we can help you. We also have a free service for startups that covers certain states in the USA. It costs you nothing to get started, and the tax and duty, everything will be upfront. So you want to reduce your manual effort. You don't want to be researching for every single order, am I above or below the threshold? What's the tax? What's the duty? How to classify this item? What do I do? You want an automated system. You want to improve your accuracy of tax calculations. So taxes change all the time. They've probably changed while I've been talking. So because of that, you need a system that's really on the ball. If you don't have a system, then get a really, really good accountant to help you, because this is something that really needs to be taken care of. And if you don't take care of it, you're going to be paying more tax than you need, and you're also going to be charging your customers too much. So we are a global company. We can help you ship anywhere in the world. We're the largest global tax compliance company. So anything you need, I'm going to be around at the networking event, even if you just have general questions, you're not sure how to get started, you want to start selling overseas and you don't know. I would really love anyone to please come and meet me. I'm here to answer any questions you have. We've got 50,000 customers. We can do everything that you would ever need to get your business started. But most important, what I wanted to highlight today is how easy it is to get started. As long as you're below the threshold, if you're a startup, please start today. Get in touch with Zappy. Tell them you want to ship with overseas. It's so much easier than you think. Don't think you need entities or lawyers or any of this kind of noise. You can just start. You, as a New Zealand company operating remotely into all these countries, you can do it today. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.